In this video, we're going to be talking about the notion of subjective utility. And so utility is proposed to be an internal subjective representation of value. So value might be some kind of objective monetary reward, for example. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. It could be a number of cookies that you are considering. But value in this case is considered as something kind of external, objective, and measurable. But the idea, though, is that perhaps we are basing our decisions not upon these external measurable values, the rewards, whatever they happen to be, money or cookies or whatever. Instead, the idea is that perhaps we are making our decisions based upon a subjective internal representation of that objective value. So let's try and work out a bit what that really means. So the idea is that along the x-axis here, you could have your objective value, your objective amount of money that you have, that you could be given. And we're just going to be considering a couple of examples here. Now, on the y-axis, we have our subjective utility, and I have purposefully not given it units. So sometimes people call this utils. It doesn't really matter. The basic idea is that we might have some scale of utility or goodness that corresponds to the money. So just to be clear, the x-axis here is some observable, tangible rewards, which could be money, could be cookies. And on the y-axis, we have some kind of internal, subjective representation of the value. Now, we have a couple of dots here tracing out a line, and we have this in a particular type of shape, which we're going to see in this video is represents like diminishing returns. So what we can see is that if you have no money, this is bad. It offers no utility whatsoever. However, if you were given, or if you won or earned £100, the idea is your utility might go up, and that's represented in this big green arrow here. So this would be good. Now, if you went from having £100 to having £200, this would also be good. But it wouldn't be twice as good according to this proposal, according to this particular shape of curve that we have. And so, yes, if you give me £100 and I already have £100, I will gain utility from that. I will like that and kind of enjoy that, I guess. It has a subjective utility. But the amount that I gain, the amount of utility I gain, won't be as much as when I went from £0 to £100. And so the idea essentially continues where if I have £200, I'm given another 100 to take me up to 300. Yes, my subjective utility increases, but it doesn't increase by the same amount. And so we could carry on doing this all day. The utility would carry on increasing. More money would be considered better. You know, there might be some kind of upper limit to that where more money becomes problematic. But here we're considering that more money is useful, but the more and more and the more money you get, the less additional benefit you get from that. So let's just try and flesh that out a bit, flesh out our understanding of this diminishing returns. So economists in particular refer to this as diminishing returns or diminishing marginal utility. And to be a little bit more specific, what we're saying is that this curve, this subjective utility curve represented by the black dots, is increasing, but it's increasing less. And so you could say that this curve has the property of having diminishing returns or diminishing marginal utility. So if we were now to essentially look at how much marginal utility we get, how much utility do we get on top of where we were before, we can see that as we get richer, then giving a richer person £100 will give them less additional or marginal utility than compared to if they were very poor to begin with. So Bernoulli was thinking about ideas kind of extending expected value theory to now kind of consider, well, maybe we don't base our decisions upon the objective outcomes, the objective monetary rewards that we might get from certain gambles. Instead, maybe our decisions are based upon an internal subjective representation, subjective value, also known as utility. Now, I'm not going to explain in this video why, but Bernoulli's curve, Bernoulli's kind of subjective utility curve, which has this property of diminishing marginal returns, was his proposal to resolve the St. Petersburg paradox. And so I think that's quite an important conceptual difference, an important point, in that we're going from people making decisions based upon real tangible outcomes to people making decisions based upon subjective internal representations.